Hello, welcome back to the Jackwood Football Podcast. We're reflecting today on August, as it's another episode of Just Another Month, and I'm here with my good friend Tom. He's back in the studio. It's been over a month since we last sat here because we were a little bit deeper into pre-season. We hadn't started the regular football season yet. We have now played some games of football.
We have.
How are you?
I'm a bit worried about your throat. I don't know what you've been up to. I think he's got a little bit excited about the mighty U's, the Yellows, storming it yesterday. I'm very well. It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to be back. Thank you to you for choosing to join us for our second episode as well. We're delighted with how the first one went down, aren't we?
We are, and we should say thank you because we didn't know how it was going to go. Truthfully, we believed in the show that we put together. We believed in the process of putting bits and pieces together and expanding on what we'd worked hard on in the last couple of years. But in League One, in the Championship, it seems so far to have gone swimmingly. So hopefully that does continue. And you tune back in for more conversation now with football being played and balls being kicked. But as you know, this show is brought to you by Wooden Grounds and the amazing people at Wooden Grounds, Matt, who has put together these beautiful pieces of art. And we spent about 5 minutes trying to work out how to describe them in the last episode.
We did.
You
spent about 5 minutes trying to get your words out just then that no one saw.
They're
fabulous.
They're brilliant.
They are fabulous.
They're great gifts. And you said before we started, you might put a little order in. We're not quite at Christmas yet, but they are fantastic presents.
If Matt's watching, I've got a lot of birthdays coming up in my family in the month of September. So I think I am going to be putting an order in. And what I am going to be doing is at checkout using a special discount code.
JWard10 for 10% off. And I mean, that's just what we provide here. We provide people with good discounts. And people have been buying them. So thank you if you did watch the last episode and place an order. Matt's much appreciated. And we are as well. Because
has that stayed there, by the way? Or
it hasn't. No, we do put that up for every time you come round.
Only when I come round?
Yeah.
He doesn't leave it on his wall?
No,
I don't think
I could.
A little bit of Pompey in your heart that you could leave up on the wall?
You are the Pompey in my heart.
Oh,
that's it.
Bless you.
That's it. Not a photo, unfortunately. It's not just a photo, though. It's a brilliant piece of work from Wooden Grounds. Anyway, let's get on with the show and go to our...
Is your voice going to last for this?
We've got 2 shows to film.
We have, yeah. So little behind the scenes, these are both being filmed back to back, aren't they? So
it will hold up.
Let's fingers crossed. Sure what are we starting with?
Who's impressed us? We're back with our trusty categories, and we are going to speak about the teams that have impressed us this month in the Championship. Do you want to start on Sunderland? Because they are top of the table. They're the current league leaders. We're 4 games in, so steady. But they've won 4 from 4. Only conceded the 1. Scored 10, but you played them yesterday.
You could say they haven't actually conceded yet because it was their own goal scorer that scored. Great header, by the way, from Luca 9, if anyone saw that, which I'm sure you would have done. Yeah, Sunderland have impressed me. They have this exuberance, which I mentioned in my video yesterday, this imperial, enigmatic youthfulness that at times, and for the majority of the game, really, Pompey couldn't deal with. It's a quality that Pompey, Burnley, Wednesday, Cardiff have pretty much had no reply to. None of those teams other than Pompey have had any kind of reply to in terms of goals. You're right, we're early days, and yes, on paper, they've had what you would say is a relatively favourable run, although Sunderland fans will bat that one back and say, well, you can only beat what you're playing in front of you, and that's absolutely right. But wow, they're quick on the break. They are clinical. They've got quality all over the pitch. They're working for each other, and they're working for the new manager. They're so defensively resolute and dominant as well, and I think that's maybe a side to their side that might go slightly under the radar because yes, they're this all singing, all dancing, free scoring side, but actually the solidity at the back was something that we just couldn't breach whatsoever, and it's something that no team has properly breached yet this season. As well as a club that's well backed with a club that has as spirited of a fan base as Sunderland's, I think that is a real recipe for success, and I expect them to be right up there this season.
It's still the age of that squad that absolutely scares me, to be quite frank.
Which I thought the experience they'd get swallowed up by a place like Fratton Park, which albeit wasn't as noisy as it can be yesterday. And they're playing their football every other week at the Stadium of Light, which is a vociferous place as well. So you would have thought that the general line of thinking is youth and inexperience in the Championship as a teenager. If you arrive at a big occasion, you get swallowed by it. But they don't. It just seems to spur them on.
I'll play a game of tennis here, football tennis.
Let's do it.
They're fearless, though. And they're fearless, and that's something that if you had if you play devil's advocate to the point there about they could get swallowed up, they could be not immature, but their immaturity maybe with their age of not having to have ever dealt with Fratton Park and never have been dealt with playing in a very, very intense atmosphere against Sheffield Wednesday, for example. That place was rocking for the first 20 minutes. Yeah, maybe in their favour, it was their fans, but still the intensity of that, and it was almost a mirror to the intensity of their performance. It was a very, very good showing and a very, very, it was front-footed. It was brilliant, right? But because they're fearless, that's playing in their favour so well. And they have got that ability to not worry about who they're playing, not worry about, but also be disciplined, but also, not doing things recklessly, being very, very brave, and also well structured by the manager Reggie Lebris. I mean, he's been phenomenal in terms of coming into a new league and working with a young group of players that we know he's got a good track record of doing. I think he's done a sublime job. And this squad is young, talented, and we all sort of said the same thing before the start of the season, but it needed a bit of direction and it needed a level of stability and identity, and it's got that. And that's a fantastic thing for Sunderland, but also quite scary for the rest of the division, and you obviously saw that yesterday. They look well-oiled, but with also that freedom to express. Let's chat another team that has impressed us. I'm going to do a little bit of talk on Watford.
Which we weren't expecting this time last month, we should say.
We weren't, and I really like the fact that Watford have started well, because pre-season chaos can go one of two ways, can't it? We sort of always come here before the start of the season and we chat about things off the pitch. Even though the football hasn't been played off the pitch, that can sometimes replicate how the start of a season can go and the whole of the season can go. And Watford over the last couple of years, it's felt stale. It's felt like it's been just playing through the motions through a season. It's been, we're here again and we're doing it again. We're going to stay up, but there's nothing refreshing about that football club in the last couple of years, and a fan base that are extremely loyal and have seen some good times. I think are desperate to move, not too long ago, and now want to be refreshed and want to move away from the staleness of the last couple of years. And what Tom Cleverley has done is just that. He's refreshed that football club from top to bottom. And chaos before the start of the season, like I said, can go one of two ways. It can almost break you, and it can really start terribly. I think of Sheffield Wednesday, that chaos last season, how badly the start of the season that wasn't until Danny Roll came in. But it's gone in the right direction. And 3 wins from 3 in August. They are playing today. They're playing Sheffield United as of recording this, or just an hour into when we're recording this. But they've played 3 games, maybe one less, but they still won all 3. 8 goals scored, just 3 conceded. It's been fun. And for so long, it hasn't been fun. Like I said, they've been playing through the motions. And maybe it's not been the toughest fixture list. I look at Millwall being one of their games. I think Derby was the other game as well in that run. So we're not speaking about one of the most, on paper, toughest fixture list for the first month of the Championship, but you've got to beat what's in front of you, and the test will now come for a very, very difficult September, where they're playing Coventry, Sheffield United today, as mentioned, but they put in some really important building blocks and proved to others, and also, most importantly, themselves, that they can more than compete. And this expansive 3-4-2-1, the floating number 10, it's been something that we haven't seen at Watford for a long time. It's felt very rigid and felt very samey.
And we didn't expect off the back of the transfer business that they'd done that there was going to be, we didn't sort of say that, oh, look at the old timers that they're bringing in on free transfers. But I think that was maybe a concern that was held widely across the Watford fan base, was that, well, we're not spending any money this transfer window, and we're bringing in Moussa Sissoko and these players that have come in. And I'm actually, and it's maybe something that we'll chat later on. And no, they won't have already seen it, will they? Or no, they will. You will have already seen me do a little bit of a piece on Daniel Jebison and how key I think he will be in terms of a goal scoring output, and what a great move I think that is for him. We're yet to see that. So, yes, Watford are high-flying at the top end of the Championship with a handful of games in and still a game to play this afternoon, but they still have an added extra to bring in with real goal-scoring threat and a proven ability, not a proven ability in the Championship, albeit, but a proven ability in Daniel Jebison to find the back of the net. And that's what it's all about.
More goal threats, even better. 2.7 goals per 90 so far.
Just add to that. Yeah.
Add to that, and the conversation was where the goal is going to come from. Yeah. Is there a level of creativity in that side, with Asprilla obviously leaving as an example?
Yeah.
It was a level of concern for the majority and Watford fans in particular.
Mm-hmm.
But all I'll say is Watford hierarchy, don't do anything stupid, because
No, it's going all right at
just
the minute.
don't
Leave it.
don't ruin this, because the games will get harder. They probably will lose games. They definitely will lose games before the end of the season.
Yeah.
But like I said, it might get more difficult during September, but the evidence is here in August.
Yeah.
And that's what they want to see, evidence. Supporters want to see evidence of progression.
Of course.
And they've seen progression.
Yeah.
So Watford, just don't do anything silly. Tom, do you want to go? Well, I've got one more that I've gone into a little bit of detail with, and that's Blackburn.
Yep.
I'll do that, and then we can go to
A little
bit
bit
of
on
Leeds and West Brom.
Yeah.
Similar to story to Watford, I think, Blackburn, because at the start of the season they were.
You've actually watched them play as well.
I have, and they did surprise me, because similarly to Watford, I didn't think it was going to start as well as it has done. Or saying that, they've done some good late business, and they have strengthened that side after what looked like a stale start to the transfer window.
Yeah.
Stale seems to be the word I'm using quite a lot on this episode, but it does show these clubs that didn't look like they had much optimism have definitely started strong. And they look like a really well-organised, robust outfit. And when you've got John Eustace as a manager, it's what you expect. An unbeaten August, 4 games played, 8 points accumulated. A much appreciated result, I'm sure, against Burnley, albeit just a single point. It's a point at Burnley. They were with 10 men for a period of time as well. Second for, and this is sort of linking back to how maybe it's slightly more direct but effective. They got the second for longest for accurate long balls. I think says something about the way that they're trying to play. It's not always maybe playing in the middle third tiki-taka, but this is a side that I think have got to maybe sometimes play to their strengths, and teams down there have got to play to their strengths, and they've got that ironic strength in the forward area. So get that ball up to us to the talents as quickly as possible. I've been impressed by Blackburn, I have, and I think their window, they sort of grew into the window, I think maybe. And I think there was a bit of conversation about their owners having a few obstacles to deal with at the start of the summer. And when they looked like that had been released and let go a little bit, they did actually end up spending a bit of cash and brought in some really good loan signings as well that I'm sure we'll come on to in the next video that we record. So, yeah, happy for Blackburn, other than the result against Oxford. But even in that game, I saw enough to suggest that this side will be causing problems, and they have done.
Shall I do a brief bit of West Brom conversation? Because Carlos is hungry, isn't he? Carlos is hungry. He's a hungry boy. He's got an exciting group of players there who showed yesterday how hard they can work to provide their supporters with something to get off the seats about. And I think when the Hawthorns is rocking, then it's a really, when they're on a roll, then that's going to be a really tough place for a lot of teams to get any points from. It was a fantastic first half performance yesterday, and probably arguably the best they've seen as a fan base under Carlos, I would say. Dropped off a little bit second half, taking chances, etc. Something that will come, I'm sure, early days in the season. Something else I was going to say to you as well is, you mentioned the team that we've just been talking about having an unbeaten start. That's an unbeaten start for West Brom as well, who, let's not forget, have played Leeds in there. They have played QPR in there, albeit they've conceded a goal or two in their Stoke, and then their first home clean sheet and win. Put those two together in Swansea. And they're off to Fratton Park in 2 weeks' time as well. So looking forward to seeing how that one goes. Although Pompey will be a new look outfit by then, so I think that maybe makes it a more of an interesting encounter than it might otherwise be. But pleased for West Brom, impressed by them, and long may that continue for Carlos and his boys.
Yeah, quick chat on Leeds too, because their start...
Always got to chat Leeds in Jam.
We have got to. I think that their first 2 games were draws, and you saw the first draw. It was a...
Shouldn't have been a draw.
It was a crazy 3-0. It was a crazy 3-0. I'm sure, she'll admit that maybe it wasn't quite as...
Well, depending on your perspective, it shouldn't have been a draw. If you're a Leeds fan, you'll say it shouldn't have been a draw. If you're a Pompey fan, you'll say the same.
They had the chances to suggest that wasn't maybe the fairest of outcomes from their part, but you only score the goals, funnily enough, that you can convert, and they didn't. They had plenty, but they didn't convert. Against West Brom, I think it was almost a sense of they'd drawn 3-3, they then lost 3-0 in the Cup, let's not concede any more. 0-0, it was a game of, not nothing, but it was a
taking stock kind of game.
Let's keep a clean sheet. Let's focus on what clearly is a weakness. And then against Sheffield Wednesday, I was really impressed. They sort of put the two together. They showed that level of quality going forward that we saw against Portsmouth, and then also the defensive abilities of the West Brom game, where it did look far more organised, it wasn't as open, it wasn't as expansive. Nice balance against Sheffield Wednesday, and a really routine win yesterday against Hull City. 2 back-to-back 2-0s, and also 3 clean sheets on the bounce as well, after what looked like a side that couldn't keep a clean sheet to save their life after the first game against Pompey and that cup against Middlesbrough. Heavily rotated side, I must say. But it's a groove. And a Leeds squad that's that good, that has been strengthened, and that looked like a bit of a concern with a lot of sales, but now a lot of strengthening. A Leeds side in a groove is frightening for the Championship.
Scary.
Because
there's a few scary sides that are starting to gain a bit of momentum.
And that sort of opening couple of games, you thought, there could be a few slow starters here. It's a crazy how 2 more games on top of that can shift that perspective entirely. And now Leeds, like an outfit that are going to be difficult. After the international break, they play Burnley. That could be a really interesting match, because Burnley, they need the international break because they've had plenty of outs themselves. So I'm looking forward to that. But Leeds, thoroughly impressed come the end of the month. And I think they definitely would have taken 8 points from 4 matches. Obviously, you can't look at a league table this early, but if you look at the points to the games played and the performance in recent weeks, I'm sure they'll feel like they're on the right track.
Should we talk about slow starters / underwhelmers then? Luton and Cardiff are the 2 clubs that I'm going to tackle. I certainly didn't think I'd be sat here across from your table in the Jam studio in our second episode talking about Luton being underwhelming in the Championship, having what I described to you, and I continue to stand by it, is I think they're probably unlucky to get relegated from the Premier League last season. They took a lot of sides. I think the Arsenal game at Kenilworth Road always sticks out in my mind, whereby they just get really unlucky. And it was only a matter of points that they went down on as well, so we could have been talking about a completely different story. But if buts and maybes in football, we love it. I think underwhelming is probably an actual good word to just describe them overall on reflection. I think it's probably a good way to describe their visit to Fratton Park earlier on this month under the circumstances. That time wasting that at the time felt like a bit of a respect kind of thing, actually I think maybe plays into a bit more of a story over the month as a whole. Luton fans will be feeling at this moment in time, anything that Rob Edwards says or in his press conferences, in his post matches, talk is cheap at the moment. He needs to start actioning straight away, and after this short window that they've got now, let's say it's a short window, John Messina described it yesterday as a bit of a mini pre-season for teams that are new look, and I think it may be the case. They've got to start producing where it matters on the pitch. That is an absolute non-negotiable. Otherwise, things start to get a little bit tricky and nasty quite quickly.
Yes, I also think as well, they look a bit predictable. And we saw in that game on Friday against QPR, they put in some brilliant crosses in the first half, led to the goal, an own goal, but it was the cross that caused that. Mm-hmm. And then they kept doing it, and QPR realised that balls into the penalty area were going to happen regularly, and they defended it. And you sort of felt that it was doing the same thing over and over again in that second 45.
Bit of footballing insanity.
And it didn't have the same output. They are missing, for me, a real creator in the centre of the pitch. Baptiste and Clark, I'm not sure if that dynamic's working. Chong is sort of drifting all over, but I think they're missing. There's a bit of imbalance in that midfield. So the international break.
I love you gesticulating with your hands, don't you?
That is something that I didn't realise
You're
until I do these.
You're a chief gesticulator, mate. You love it.
They need the international break like a few clubs. Reset a little bit.
I think nearly every club we're talking about, other than the ones at the top end, are going to go, yeah, we could do with a bit of an international break to have a bit of a reset. So Luton are definitely one to put in there. Can I talk you through Wayne Rooney's Plymouth start to the season? Yeah. And then you can fire away. 4 games, no wins, 2 goals scored, 7 goals conceded, lowest XG 4 in the Championship, highest XG against in the Championship.
The eye test wasn't great against Wednesday.
No.
And the data doesn't back it up for the remaining 3 after that.
That's quite damning reading.
It is.
What's going wrong? Would you be a football manager if you could answer that question?
I would. I don't think it's working for Wayne. And it was one of those where they just don't look... They don't look right. They don't look right. Structurally, they don't look right. And there's there's a manager there that I think needs, and he's got quite an experienced backroom staff with him because he actually inherited the same backroom staff that was already there. They look a bit naive. I actually thought the second half against QPR, when they played with 10 men for the majority of it, looked all right. And they could defend with an extra body.
They can do it backs against the wall style.
With one less body. And that is maybe where they're...
Two less bodies, wasn't it?
Two less bodies for the remaining 30 seconds. But for a large period, I think Forshaw got sent off in the first half or very early on in the second half. But for a long period, it was a man down. We knew Wayne Rooney wants to come in and play a good brand of football. He wants to come in and attack. He wants to... And that was almost a bit of an issue that he had at Birmingham, where he didn't really look at the squad. He didn't look at the squad and look at their strengths. He wanted to almost, and this is a bit harsh, but I think it's the truth. I think he is so desperate to prove that he can manage a side that plays an attractive brand of football and wants his side to play sexy football that might get him a better job going forward.
You're saying there's a bit of over-trying going on?
I just don't think this side is built for the football he's trying to implement. I really don't. They are so open, but then when I look at, it's not like they're losing 4-3 or losing 3-2. They also look quite toothless in the final third as well. So when you're trying to play that brand of football but are struggling to defend and look pretty toothless going forward, I don't really know where they go there. I mean, like you said, they haven't won a game yet. 2 draws and 2 defeats. It's not the worst team in the league when you look at the points return. But if you look at their performances,
isolate them
I reckon they've probably got about one game, maybe 2 45s across those games where they've looked okay, and that isn't sustainable, and you won't stay up with that. I'm just not quite sure. They needed someone, like we said before the season kicked off, someone with a bit of nous, someone that knew the league and could steady the ship.
I remember saying at the time, why would you board an emotional roller coaster like the appointment of Wayne Rooney so quickly after jumping off the last one? It did just need let's just strip it back, let's get through, let's have a comfortable championship season. And because of the nature of this league, we know that it's never comfortable. But you're right, you needed someone who has been around the place, had success at this level, been able to keep teams in the division quite comfortably.
With a squad that, let's be honest, compared to a lot of that league, isn't one of the strongest. And when you're trying to play football that would suggest that you've got better technical footballers than that squad currently has, I think it is a recipe for disaster. Yeah. You've got to be so, and there are managers in this league that are doing that. I don't want to say it, but I think we've got one of them, and you have as well, that have got the ability to still play a very, very entertaining brand of football with less resources, probably a little bit of less championship experience as well, and still be productive and still find results. I just don't quite know if that's the case at Plymouth. I wanted to be proved wrong in a way, because one thing I will respect Wayne Rooney for is giving it a go and also not being fearful of the jobs that haven't gone quite well. And if you look at the Birmingham one, that wasn't easy to walk into. Derby definitely was not easy to walk into.
Derby's his best job.
And DC United, I think, was a disaster, but it's hard to compare that in the MLS.
Cardiff's the final team we're going to talk about in terms of underwhelming. Errol hasn't quite been able to get a consistent tune, has he, in terms of performances or result, albeit the 5-0 against Burnley, I think probably flatters Burnley on balance a little bit. It's not a nice one to have against your name regardless. And there's a severe lack of pace, which is deep-rooted in that side. And they've got an intricacy about them, which, you know, when sometimes you talk about being intricate, it can so quickly become just slow. And I think that's probably what it is. It just comes across as really slow.
Passive.
Yeah, passive's a good one as well. If you're not threatening up top and you're leaky at the back, that's a real recipe for disaster. And I think, and again, we're going to say it for probably the third or fourth occasion on Jam so far, but a great time for a break to come for Cardiff and for just an international reset, really. And I know, and I was saying this to a friend of mine that I was speaking to in the car on the way up to you today, is that, oh, why are you saying in your video yesterday you're delighted that the international break's come, and I'm like, it's only been 4 games. I'm like, well, yeah, when you're, and this is, I know I'm on a Cardiff chat, and I'm relating it to Pompey, but when you've had 2-2, 3-3, 0-0, and then a 1-3 defeat, you look at Cardiff's results that don't mirror that whatsoever. They're actually a lot worse than that. And you look at how it's not gone to plan whatsoever. You feel like you've been going for a lot longer than 4 games. And it is an opportunity to reset. And I feel like we're kind of making the same argument with absolutely every team that we're talking about. But it's not gone well for Cardiff. And it's not even gone well in the Cup for Cardiff, really, I don't think.
The only saving grace I've got is they didn't lose to Swansea in the Welsh derby.
No, they didn't. In the South Wales derby.
And the first half I watched, I didn't get to see the second half, but the first half I watched, Swansea were all over them. Now, maybe the chance creation that Swansea failed to do with the possession and the number of passes is the reason why Swansea couldn't kill that game off, and they'll be gutted they couldn't kill that game off. And fair play to Cardiff, they stayed in it. The game, at 1-0, that game is still very much open, and one chance can completely swift the rhythm of it. And they did do that, and they got a point out of it. And if that was a defeat in that derby and the rest of the form that has come to fruition, I think they'd be even more concerned. Still not great, though.
Still not great, because you're looking at that, and that is very much isolating a game. In every other game, they've lost by at least 2 goals and not scored whatsoever. So 2-0 to Sunderland on the opening day. I mentioned the 5-0 Burnley, and then you've just got a 2-0 reverse at home to Middlesbrough, which, okay, Sunderland and Middlesbrough are 2 of the best sides that this league is going to offer, and Burnley, albeit the roller coaster transfer window that they've experienced, and perhaps not the most orthodox, straightforward start that Scott Parker was maybe imagining when they came into this division at the start of the season or at the top of the season, they have still been severely below par, and it's a little bit of a concern where you don't score a goal other than in the South Wales derby in your first month in the Championship.
They just look mistake-riddled. It's just...
Which is something that can be fixed.
Which can be. That game against Burnley that you mentioned there, that first half, they played actually the better football.
Yeah.
They lost 5-0.
Should have been 2-0 up.
In that game.
How can you should be 2-0 up and lose the game by 5?
Because individually, the goalkeeper, that's the stand. That's the moment. You want the mistake of the month?
Yeah.
That might be a mistake of the season, and we're only in the first month.
That might be a new feature, mistake of the month.
How he's managed to
I quite like that.
Misjudge the pass and it goes straight under his foot. It's an absolute nightmare. But mistakes like that, and you're going to find it so difficult to win games of football because rhythm and momentum in football is so key, and moments like that kill all types of rhythm, and they're struggling. Little mention on Sheffield Wednesday. Let's be careful. Sheffield Wednesday make up a large amount of my audience.
Don't upset the Wednesday
fans,
Jack.
We'll keep them happy. But when you look at their recent results, it's difficult to do that. A tough fixture list, really. Sunderland and Leeds are not nice teams to play in your first month. But the Millwall defeat yesterday. But the Millwall defeat yesterday was a bit of a killer, and I think a few Sheffield Wednesday fans can probably accept losing or not being as good against Sunderland and Leeds because of the quality of the opposition. They look good against Plymouth, but maybe that says a bit more about the opposition and Plymouth. Quite funny how both teams are now ended up. If you'd have told me that both Sheffield Wednesday and Plymouth would be in our underwhelming section after the first game of the season, I probably wouldn't have believed you.
And Luton.
And Luton too. But the fact they played against each other and Sheffield Wednesday won so comfortably in that game to end both in the underwhelming categories.
It's a little bit bizarre,
says
isn't it?
quite a lot about how the rest of
August has
gone for them.
Yeah, says a lot about the champ.
Yeah, the Millwall defeat yesterday was poor. In fact, I've got an interesting stat here that isn't my own, actually. It's from a Sheffield Wednesday fan who said we've conceded more, that's 9 goals, than we've had shots on target in the last 3 games.
That's pretty damning, isn't it?
They've conceded more goals, that's 9 goals, than they've had shots on target in their last 3 games. So that's all 3 defeats.
Not the kind of stat you want associated with yourselves.
No, and I thought against Plymouth, they looked like a side that wouldn't stop creating chances.
No, that was the... Is that the... Oh, what's the word? How would you describe it? Is that the red herring of the month, that result, perhaps? I don't know. That was very much going to set the course. We all thought, oh my word, Wednesday going to be quite some team. And we thought, marry that with Danny Roll's new contract, a great window, 4-0 on the opening weekend, because it was the Sunday, wasn't it? But, yeah. They were cooking, and then all of a sudden, someone's turned the gas off.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Put that in the video. That's got to go in. That's quality.
Yeah,
Sorry.
There is
laughing
there is
at my
concern.
own brilliance.
It was good. It was good. You've managed to find the blend of the cooking, and then you've actually brought the oven into play, which I think
was good.
It's quite impressive.
It was good.
Sheffield Wednesday, like I said, it's only because of the optimism and the nugget of excitement that we had with that first game, and how it has sort of plummeted quite dramatically. But a big reset button, as we've said, for most clubs in this section.
Should we chat new, boys?
We are new.
Yeah, we are new.
Do you want to go first with Portsmouth? It's been...
I can very, very brief.
So hard to... and it's so hard to, I think, describe. And that's just me externally. I imagine actually being in the full front of it is even more difficult.
It is quite literally try and describe the sometimes indescribable. Frenetic, mental, just an absolute whirlwind, a month of a roller coaster, and Pompey have ridden that roller coaster well in times. Like if you, again, and I feel like I say this every single time I have a conversation about Pompey, but and there'll be Pompey fans out there watching this that feel the exact same way. If you had offered us 3 points before a ball was kicked, and if you said to us, you'll go all but one game unbeaten in August against Leeds, Middlesbrough, Luton and Sunderland, I think you would have gone, yeah, fair enough, we'll take that. It is 3 points more than I was expecting at this stage. One thing I did want to get in there, and this was almost going to be in my best performers section, but that 30 minutes I saw from Abdoulaye Kamara yesterday, all 24 of his 24 passes he played were on the money, 100% accuracy, and he just looked after the ball so well. His close control was excellent, and I think he's really one for the future. But yeah, not a cause for concern, I don't think, at Pompey right now. No dramas from my point of view, I don't think. Yes, on paper, we've conceded far too many and created far too little. That's probably fair enough. But don't forget we've scored 5 goals away from home at the Riverside and Ellen Road, and that's not to be sniffed at. So positive overall.
Yeah, you're not gonna like it. You're not gonna like this, but you are gonna like it in the fact that you've ended with 3 points.
Yes,
you were winning in the 90th minute against Leeds.
Yes, I know. So go on, tell me how many points we could have had. Go on.
Well, you probably could have had 7.
Well, no. If you win at Middlesbrough and win at Leeds,
6 plus your 7 for Luton.
Could we have got anything out of Sunderland? Probably not. I don't think we were ever going to get anything out. I think we knew during the week and the build-up that we would probably not get anything out of Sunderland given their run.
And it is hard.
There's a world in which we could have beaten Luton, by the way.
There's also, yes, I actually think the red card, and the red card didn't help you.
No, it made the game a very boring, flat and dull occasion because the arbiters of sitting in all season in the Premier League last year, Luton Town, were in town, and they're just the best at defending because they've had to literally be backs against the wall so much.
It killed the prospect of that game.
Anyway, let's chat about that another time because we do too much Pompey chat. Tell us about Dez's Mighty Yellows.
Yeah, we're doing all right. We're doing okay. Tom behind the camera, producer Tom, was so desperate that we spoke about Des Buckingham.
Yes.
And his start to...
Oh, and rightfully so.
Life in the Championship, because similarly to you and the feeling that you've currently got with your football club, lots of positives. Mm-hmm. Overall positive, overall happy, and the performances, actually, if you separate performance to results, which at the start of the season I'm comfortable in doing, very, very pleased overall. Against Norwich, almost perfect performance. I'd say if you're looking at a side making their return to the Championship after 25 years against Norwich, that's a perfect performance. Coventry, you watched that. We all watched that. It was extremely heartbreaking.
Great game.
Great game of football. Friday night in the Championship. It's for a neutral. Sublime. For myself, sublime for about 89 minutes. Probably around 90. I think it was 90 plus 4 we conceded. For 93 minutes, it was a great game of football.
Isn't it amazing how two teams in Pompey and Oxford, and we can have this little moment together and share it, isn't it amazing how two teams in Pompey and Oxford have gone to clubs that are the alleged Championship establishment, taken them to within the 90th minute of almost winning the game or almost getting something from the game on more than one occasion this season? Yeah. I think it's a positive reflection of where we both are as clubs. And you've had a better start than we have on paper, but I think we've equally had as emotional rides, haven't we?
Yeah, I do. I think against Blackburn, it was the first half was much better than the second. I would put that down slightly to Blackburn coming out better.
He travelled to Blackburn, by the way.
We did.
Credit
for
that.
Blackburn.
Yeah.
And yesterday, I thought
you both went, didn't you?
We did. It was a good afternoon. The goal made it worth it. It's a great strike from Mark Harris.
That's goal of the month.
We don't do goal of the month, but we will.
But that
for this
is
one.
Mark Harris. Yeah. It just happens to be an Oxford player, so it's a thing for this month.
It won't be next month, I'm sure. And then yesterday's game, I was just delighted with it. I think the first 20 minutes, it was a bit patchy, and I'd go as far to say it was poor. But that was again down to the fact I thought Preston came out all guns blazing. They're a big physical unit who just came at us quite aggressively, but aggressively in the sense that got them an early lead. The physicality was a massive part in actually stopping us from playing. The press was good, press was strong, and Oxford United have got some very, very good technical midfielders. If you don't give them time, it can almost get quite intense, and we know that we're not experienced to dealing. Sometimes, not being in the Championship, not dealing with that type of pressure, it can all sort of fall a little bit too much. And we had to deal with getting through that 20-minute spell and only being 1-0 down. We act in the perfect way. Mark Harris scoring 4 goals from 4 is a fantastic return.
A very brief word on Derby County that I wanted to mention. My main takeaway from Derby this month is, and it's not really something that's ever changed under Paul Warne, really, is that it's acceptable when they win, but it's a soul-destroying watch when they don't. And I think we saw that yesterday with a decent win against a good side. But then the Watford defeat was a really tough watch for Derby County fans. And I don't know how long it's going to be before something ends up cracking there and they go on a run of too many soul-destroying defeats that it just becomes tricky.
Yeah, they keep doing what they're doing, though. I mean,
but if they keep doing this,
they'll be all right.
Yeah. Okay. Fair play.
That's the thing.
We skipped best performers, by the way.
We'll come back to it then. Yeah, I just think with Derby, I think they aren't playing any differently to the way they did in League One. But when you've got Paul Warne in charge, I don't think we expected that.
They didn't get that striker they wanted either.
No. Although Caden Jackson's come in, he's scored a really good number of goals.
Marcus Harness as an arrival is someone I could talk about for ages, both positively and negatively. But I think it's something different for Derby that he offers for sure.
Ozo, they've got a Crystal Palace on loan as well. It's an absolute monster in the midfield. And if you look at physical presence and the way that Paul wants his side to be built, he looks to be a perfect fit. Yeah, I think when we look at the new boys, none of us are in the bottom 3 after 4 games, which is good. Points return, better for some. Performance, better than some. I think we all probably would have taken it.
Yeah,
and we're not going to be the punching bags of the Championship just quite yet.
Which is good. My ender is probably my performer of the month. I wanted to have a little bit on Sadie. I think you're going to mention Chris Rigg in there as well, and I think you've already kind of mentioned Mark Harris as well, so we can maybe come back to him. The term generational talent is pretty rife in football these days, and particularly top end English football. But I genuinely think that's something that you've got with Chris Rigg at Sunderland, and he's 17 years old.
Scary.
Several years younger than both me and you. And for him to perform as well as he has done for Sunderland, he was my favourite player to watch on the pitch yesterday. And that's talking from a Pompey fan's point of view. Sometimes you kind of, when you're watching a game of football, you just take your colours away, don't you? You can just experience and enjoy a useful talent, a youthful and just very useful talent in Chris Rigg, who I am in absolutely no doubt that will be playing in an England shirt in the not too distant future. I think he made his debut at the age of 16 for Sunderland, which I think tells you an awful lot. My ender as well, just an absolute joke. An absolute joke. And in the post-Jack Clark era at Sunderland, although we're early days, the threat that they have, I don't think is anything to be worried about not having Jack Clark there, to be completely honest with you. I know that my ender is the sort of top end, but let's get ready to Mundle. He's about popping them around, isn't he? Scored yesterday again. He's only 21 as well. So you're like, well, my Ender's what? 19 as well. Mundle's 21. Chris Rigg 17. Joe Bellingham is 18.
Their midfield against Sheffield Wednesday, Dan Neil, Joe Bellingham and Chris Rigg, I think the average age was 19.
Which is a joke. But we're kind of having the same conversation as we did at the top of the show, which we should probably stray away from.
But it shows a performer of the month to be 17 years of age.
Is a joke, yeah.
And to be in a squad where there's quite a few that are around that age category. It says so much about that team and the players involved in it.
I did want to give and it's not as big of a shout out as it was before this weekend's just happened, because he wasn't able to. Well, he did put himself around a bit, but he wasn't able to impress as much as he has done with Christian Sadie, who scored a brace at Middlesbrough and is just got so much brute strength and ability, and he has just this devilish aura about him that I just absolutely love. And no, he's not a 9, I don't think, in my view. I think he's... And Sadie, he's almost positionless. Like, I just prefer Sadie to be, yes, in the side, and there'll be Pompey fans out there watching this that will say that Sadie has to be in the side. But I prefer him to be a midfield dynamic that just sort of roams and just wins the ball and just takes care of it, plays someone else in, pops up with a couple of goals every now and again. And I think Sadie did that for us in League One last season really well, not being relied upon as the sole number 9, because brutally honest, I don't think he offers enough as a number 9, because that's not him, which is absolutely fine. Sadie's not Colby Bishop, he's not Cassini Yengi, he's not your all singing, all dancing striker, although he came in as a striker.
I think he's better than Yengi.
Okay. Yengi, I think, is still carrying some sort of knock. Not confirmed, but I don't know what.
I just thought
he just looks a little bit short of it at the minute. But that's all I wanted to mention. You had Josh Major.
Josh Major. Yeah, scored a hat-trick on the opening weekend. Has been really good for West Brom. A few mentions as well. I think our blaster at Sheffield United looks really good. They kept hold of him, which is crucial. There's a bit of late interest there. I mean, Hamer as well. There was a bit of late interest from Sheffield United, and that midfield looks really strong. Those two are definitely a mention. I think if you're continuing on the Sunderland train, 09's had a really strong start to the season. Sturkin at left back looks really strong, but we could name the entire Sunderland 11. Joseph at front for Leeds has stepped up, and I think we talk about players that had an opportunity and needed to take the opportunity. Patrick Bamford injured, and his recent goal record hasn't been great for Leeds. And Joseph's come in and looked great. That pass against Sheffield Wednesday is an absolute joke for me. He's got that ball up, got that ball deep, and he's threaded a beautiful ball through to Dan James. And that could be part, we joke about it on T-Flop, that could be pass of the month. It was a great assist. So yeah, I've rattled through a few names there. As always, and like we said when we did the League One show, there'll be players that we miss, but we can't name every starting 11 of every team that's won, so we have to be a little bit more specific. But I think we put a few names forward.
Players will get a mention at some point. If they're performing as they should be all season, they will get a mention on Jam, don't you worry. Shall we briefly chat Preston and Ryan Lowe and what's going on there?
And Manager of the Month.
Well, Manager of the Month's Reggie Labrie. I think that's basically, sold on that one.
Did we think that we would be reflecting on August and have a sacking? And it wasn't even recent either.
No, it was a little while ago. Yeah. How many managers are Preston on now for the season?
3.
Yeah.
1 caretaker that left still as a caretaker.
Within what? A couple of days to a week minimum?
Just 1 game, yeah.
Yeah, it's not much fun at Preston right now. What did you think about them yesterday as well? Do they look like a side that's been through 3 managers within a month?
They did. At the first 20 minutes, like I said, they looked strong. They looked like a hecking bottom team that had been well organised, I think well tactically disciplined to play against a side that maybe in Oxford could have suffocated under the intensity that they sort of brought upon us. And after that, they lost their way a little bit. They started each half pretty strong. The first 20 minutes was good. I thought the first 20 minutes of the second half, they came out and had a decent chance too. But you can't be patchy. And I think against Luton, it was a crucial hecking bottom first win, which I think is good. And, we speak of manager bounce. Is that just to say? I don't think it is. I think there is a bounce in performance, and there was. Were they great against Luton? they rode the wave, rode the storm, or whatever you want to ride. They definitely dealt with a lot of pressure that Luton had sort of posed against them. But yeah, Heckingbottom needs time. And again, let's come back to it. They've got an international break now, and they're the first team that are going to have to deal with a new manager who's got to install ideas over an international break. I think Heckingbottom's a good appointment, really. You know, he's someone that fits the squad. They could have got a little bit more glamorous. I think there was a few names that were mentioned. I think Brian Murphy was one that's been at Manchester City. He's got a really expansive style of play. They've gone for someone that understands, maybe someone that bloody Plymouth should have appointed personally.
That's exactly what I was just about to say.
Safe pair of hands.
Yes, I was literally just about to say, do you remember us talking about Plymouth at the top, middle part of this show, and how riding an emotional roller coaster and how they should have just gone with a safe option? I think that is a really, really smart, albeit, yes, it could have been, I like the word of glamorous as well, because I think that doesn't that's in no disrespect to Paul Heckingbottom, but that is also what Preston could have got. But I think you're right. Someone who knows their way around, knows these grounds, knows the Championship, knows what you need to do in the Championship.
Can get results early with that squad.
Get results early with the squad. And yeah, I think it's a good appointment. As you say, in his time, he'll get time, hopefully. Bit of settle of the waters. Been a lot of choppy times at Preston over the last couple of months, and he'll settle things down for sure.
Really, really quickly to run up on Preston. Ryan Lowe leaving after one game. Why did he bloody leave in pre-season?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why you'd give it one game. Obviously something that was going to happen or bound to happen and just didn't. So it's a weird one. Football works weirdly sometimes, doesn't it?
It does. And like you said there, manager of the month, pretty straightforward. I think Reggie Briss deserves to
I mentioned it. Mentioned it at the top of the show. He's got a team that's working for him. It's a brand new, dazzling era, a French Revolution, if you will, Jack, that they're embarking on. And look, he's new to it. I watched his pre-match press conference, and he didn't really know where Portsmouth was, what Portsmouth is, or kind of, and all the journalists. I bet he
knew how you won though.
Well, the journalists sat in the room and are all kind of going, "Oh, Portsmouth, a great place to go." And he goes, "I don't really know what like I don't know what to expect," but that's good because he's starting afresh and he's coming in. And he's got a fearless group of players, and he looks like a fearless manager. So, as I said, recipe for success. And from a Sunderland point of view, long may it continue. And long may this show continue.
What a month.
Great month.
A month.
But it is just another month.
It is. And that's why the title, that's why the name is so good.
Great title.
That's it then, Tom. That's it. We've completed August.
So you're going to have some lunch?
Let's have some lunch. We've also got a video to film as well.
Which has already happened.
We've already seen.
So if you haven't seen it, go back.
And if you're wondering why we maybe didn't mention the transfer window during the show, that's because you would have already watched, because I know what you're like, you definitely would have watched the episode that's gone out, hopefully a few days before this has gone out. So
very good.
We'll do a little bit of chat on transfer window in that one, or plenty of chat. We'll be ranking every team's transfer window. But as August reflections go, this one is complete. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like. Please do subscribe. And of course, we want to hear what you've got to say. We both read the comments down below. How do you reflect? We reflected on yours. Now you reflect on yours yourself. How do you think your August has gone? As expected, it's been all over the shop, but really exciting. Also, a massive shout out to Winning Grounds. Use the discount code JWard10 for 10% off. Until next time, we'll see you in September to reflect on another jam-packed Championship month. Take care.